Hi everybody, welcome back to the Old Barn Workshop, and for those of you who don't know me, my name's Mark. So what are we doing today? Well, I'm really stoked actually. The GPz750 that we've been working on, well, you've probably seen that if you watched Friday's episode, is now pretty much ready to come home. So I took her for a test drive today. Used the rear brake, which must have locked on, and by the time I was nearly home, I realised the disc was blue and it was smoking and really unhappy. So I smacked it with a rock until it freed off. Not the best thing to do, but desperation. And I've just taken that off and given it a quick clean, put it together. Seems good. I am noticing a lot of running issues. And those running issues are caused by the huge, ridiculously huge, almost half again oversized main jets. Now I know it's got bell mouths on, but going from 109 to 150 is quite a big jump in jet size. So I will be looking at that. I'm just, because I've also noticed the needles have been raised a notch. So I'm going to put the needle down, see if that makes a bit of difference to full throttle, because it's just bogging with all the fuel that's coming in it. But one really important job, well, I'll show you. Give me a second. So on our GPZ, we have front indicators. And I'm a great believer in using shit like that because it saves you falling off and getting trashed. But that's the problem, nowhere to mount the rear. And why is that, you ask? I'm sure you do. Let me grab a chair and I will explain. So, somebody had cut all this mudguard off, the original. And I thought, right, no problem, see if we can pick one up secondhand. Not a chance. There are 0 GPz750 mudguards for sale. Oh, actually, that's a lie. I did find one somewhere like Indonesia, but it was going to be millions of pounds. So I thought, okay, what else can I use? And this mudguard is off a 305, the belt drive GPZ. Same mudguard, no mountings for the indicators that obviously mounted some other way. So what I've got to do is I've got to cut mountings in. It almost looks like somebody's had a go. I'm not sure what that is. But I'm going to mount them. I think they do go roughly there. So I'll have a quick look at a few bikes and just see where they mount. So that's the job we're going to do. Hate to do it, but drill and cut the mudguard. Now, let me show you why this is not going to be as easy as you would like it to be. So, here is an indicator, and I don't know if you can see, the actual mounting isn't round, it's kind of oval shaped, and that's so that the thing locks in and doesn't start sagging down. And here is the bush that fits into the mudguard. So first thing is, I've got to cut a hole that looks something like that, but bigger. The other thing is, I don't have the original bushes. So this bush came with a new indicator I bought, or a second-hand one, because one of them had the thread damaged. So what have I got here? I hear you say, this is some neoprene rubber. I've cut 2 halves and a centerpiece. So I cut that outer, bigger diameter out of the rear mudguard, and then I stick one of these either side onto the indicator and bolt the whole lot up. What a palaver. You cannot get those for love nor money. I mean, you just can't get them. But I will keep on looking. I might even see if I can buy another complete indicator, excuse me, fly, with the bush. So that's the job. That's what we're going to do. So to make this a bit easier for me to mark up and cut and everything, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some masking tape on, and then it's going to make any scribblings a bit more visible. So normally, I don't know if you can see, there's like a seam here where the mudguard then dips into this back piece. Normally the indicator's a bang slap in the middle of that. But the trouble is on the back of the mudguard, it would be reinforced and packed out so it was flat on the back and flat on the front where the indicator sat. Otherwise the indicator would be at an angle. So I've got a choice. I can either mount it in the mudguard section or I can mount it somewhere in this triangular section here. And when I've looked at it, it looks a lot better here because the further you bring it into the mudguard, it looks tacky and it's encroaching then on the grab handle, which I need to bolt on. Let's remember to do that. So masking tape's on here. What I'm going to do is probably measure in from there's some ridges in the light. I'll probably take that ridge, come out and set a distance, and that will be, you know, somewhere roughly there. And then I can mark that little diamond shape, drill the 4 corners, and then cut out the bit in the middle, and just hope to God I make a reasonable job of it, because if I fuck it up I'll be really upset. You will see me cry. So that's looking okay. Let's get a rule, and what I'm going to do is I've just put a new scalpel blade in here, and I'm not going to leave it on the seat, because if I do, I know what will happen. I'll either cut myself or cut the chuff in the seat. Stone over there. Right, so that's what we're going to do. So kind of parallel with that. And of course, I can't get a big roll in. Fucking obvious that, innit? So I can't get a roll in. Pain in the arse. Let's see how that goes. Nah, I kind of want it over a bit more. Sounds about that one. Oh, that looks better. And then showing the way. Yeah, so that's me centre point. And that's very roughly, as you can see, very roughly, my triangle. Now I'm just, there is something behind that. There's the, but I think we're okay. I'll just be gentle with the drill. Not sure the best way to cut that, but small hacksaw looks a good bet. Not sure that'll fit, but let's give it a go. It will do. Just checking, make sure I haven't got any wire in. No, that's good. Brought along a straight screwdriver just to help me get this in and seated. I might not need it at this rate. Okay, so I'm going to have a quick look in the manual, figure out the wiring, which side should go where. In fact, I can look at the front and do that. Let's have a look. So on the front, green goes to this side and the other colour goes to the other side. So I want the green one. Have I got a green? So a quick look on the bench. Grey, green. Nuts. No big plain washer, so I need to find a big flat plain washer. Big flat plain washer, bit of an overkill, but I wonder if that's the right size. Yep, let's go to it. Very exciting, putting an indicator on that's never been on. Right, now obviously you guys won't be able to see what I'm doing around the back of the bike. Right, I'll just get a 14mm spanner. Yeah, I might have to get a shorter 14mm. Let's see if I can do it with the ring end. No, just as awkward. Come on, cable. Actually, I'm going the wrong way, aren't I? Ugh. Right, it's all a bit loose. I might just glue that rubber bush in and be done with it. But there you go, first indicator on. I'll sort out wiring in a bit. Just one more side to do. Okay, so what are we looking at here besides the front end of my beautiful Yamaha FJ1100? What we're looking at is two of the components on the air filter box. So let me show you what's happened and let's try and come up with a way to get around it. So I believe what I've got here is the airbox, all right, with that way, for the GPz1100, GPz750 I'm going to start again. I believe what I have here is the airbox for my GPz750, not a turbo, not an 1100. It's definitely a Kawasaki part, let's put it that way. So the airbox fits in like so. Now here we have a big screw thread, 110mm. And that's how the air filter's held in. I don't know if you can see, but inside there is a place where the filter locates. I hope you can see that. I can't see what you see at the moment. So if I drop the filter in, that kind of fits in like that. Now, I'm not sure if this is the correct part or not, because I would have said something screws onto here and holds that filter in, but this is what came. So either somebody's cut the screw thread part off here, it's kind of got this little lip on it, so that could have been to help you unscrew it, but I think this is something different. I don't think this is actually part of that. If you were to fit that in there, you then couldn't get anything to screw over. So I think this is a red herring. Okay, so on the bench I have three different kinds of material. This is an alloy, mild steel and stainless steel. Now they've all got very different properties. You know, metal isn't just metal, and a lot of you will know this, some of you won't. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to teach anyone to suck eggs, and if I've got this wrong, please tell me in the comments. They will all do the job, but some will do the job better than others. So let me explain why we would choose a particular metal. First thing is, aluminium, it's a very lightweight metal. As long as you anneal it, and I'll get to that in a minute, fairly easy to work with. It can be quite brittle. Very easy to drill. Again, with heat you can shape it quite nicely, but it's not very strong, and if you put a bend in it, that bend can easily disappear or be forced into a different shape, so it doesn't retain a shape very well. Stainless steel, a really hard metal, quite a lot more difficult to work with to do a good job. You don't need to anneal it, and as I say, I'll get onto that in a moment, or not very often. When you put this into a shape, it holds a shape. So for things like a Z-shaped bracket, once you've made that bracket, even if there's a bit of stress and strain on it, it will maintain a good shape. But hard to drill, hard to cut, you know, and just an asshole metal in my view. I love its properties for the fact that it doesn't rust, so it's very highly corrosion resistant. but it is the arsehole of metal. Okay, mild steel. This is quite a wonder metal really, and very important to industry in the world. So it's fairly easy to form, it's fairly easy to work with, drilling, etc., cutting, filing, making look pretty. So it's a good metal to use. You put this into a shape, it will hold it a lot better than aluminium. Maybe not quite as good as stainless, but still good enough for what we need. The only problem with mild steel is it's not corrosion resistant. So if you don't paint it or protect it somehow, it will rust. So all things considered, I'm not going to use aluminium. I'm certainly not going to use arsehole. So we're going to find ourselves a suitable bit of mild steel. I think for the brackets will be very small. This is quite thick. That will make it very hard to get a nice sort of bend on it in small scale pieces. So we'll see if we've got something a little bit more suitable and make up some brackets. So there you go. That's why we're choosing the metal we're choosing. Right, you might be able to hear the kettle in the background, sorry about that, but it's going to be a hot day today, so hydration is king. So our bracket's going to look something like that. And what we're going to do, I like to actually plan a bit, you know, rather than just put it in a vise and bang it around so it looks right. So our bracket is going to need to be 18mm high. So the height is going to be 18, and I know you're looking at this upside down, not 81, 18. We have something like around about 12mm land. So that length is probably 12, and then we can afford around about 20mm for that dimension. Now the thing is, this 18 is pretty critical because we want that to be so we seal this lid down. Otherwise air's just going to rush round and you know, bypass the filter. So that's actually got to be 18mm and you know, try and produce a seal there. And this 12 is going to be really tight. So the metal I'm going to use is this flat strip. I would imagine that's I wouldn't say it's any more than 2mm, might even be 1.6. That's 2mm, which is actually quite thick. And to get a nice sharp clean bend and to maintain that 18mm is going to be quite difficult. So we're going to mark it up and we're going to allow a certain amount of wastage, if you like, for the bend, because you're not going to see a bend like that. You are more likely to see this curve here. I hope you can see this. And of course that changes the length of the piece of metal. So the first thing we're going to create is this piece. So we're kind of working, we'll make that bend, not bother about the length, then make this bend, not bother about that length, just concentrate on getting this right because it's the more critical. Then we can cut those down to size. So how are we going to make these bends? Well, to be honest, I think the easiest way is to put it in a vise and smack it with a hammer. You might say, oh Mark, that sounds very rough. But the jaws on the vise are pretty square, so I can make this as square as possible, and that helps me to keep that measurement accurate. I might cock it up. I don't think I've got a lot more of this stuff. In fact, I think this is the only piece. So let's mark it up. I'm going to cut these little ends off. Take that. Got enough there to probably make 2, make 4 all in total. I'm sure we can get 2 that will work. And again, they might not be the prettiest thing, but we're looking here for functionality. It's whether it does the job properly, not necessarily whether it looks good and it's got hammer marks or jaw marks from the vice. The other thing is I've got to hold this 18mm because I want to bend both ends. The problem's going to be that the depth of the vice is more than 18mm, so that's going to make it a little bit more difficult. So we'll be bending, I'll hold that in the vice and bend that, and then hold this in the vice to bend that, if that makes sense. Anyway, you'll see it as a practical. Let's go ahead and do that then. Let's try that again. First thing we're going to do is tidy this up. So I'm going to leave a weight of metal at this end, draw me a line, and then set my divider, stick that on the line, make a mark on that. Okay, so I've marked this with an 18mm section in the middle. As I said, I'm not bothered about the length either end. The 18mm is the critical bit. And what I'm going to do, you can't see it, well, I'll try and do it this way, see if I can. I'm going to set this up so that line I've marked is pretty much level with the vice. Sorry, I'm going to have to do it from my side, but you get the gist. Now I'm going to have the line just above, so as I roll this over the edge of the vice, hopefully we've taken into consideration the thickness of the metal. What I'm going to do is just push this with my hand at first, start the bend off, and now I'm going to square it off with the hammer. Now, it's probably just a little bit over 90 degrees, but what we can do is just check it. That ain't bad. That ain't bad for by eye. Now, I can still see my other line. But as I said, I can't sit this in the vice like that. The vice is too deep. So the only thing I can do, which is kind of a bit shitty really, but I'll show you the solution, is I drop this down. Now, the other thing, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but the line is right on the apex of this bend, which means I should be very close to 18 if I can do the same on this one. So that's just because we brought the line up a little bit, taking into consideration the amount of metal we'd require for that roll. Sorry if this is a bit technical, but we want it to be right. So I'm going to do this one. So I've only got a small amount of metal sticking up. It's quite hard to gauge if I'm square, but that looks good. Now, I can't just bend this over by hand like I did the other one because I don't have the amount of metal. So if you've got to make a tight bend in a small space like this, the easiest way to do it is use a fairly thin bit of metal. For that, I'm going to use a bit of angle because it's strong, it being a bent shape. I'm going to put that into the crease and I'm going to hammer this over. Little taps, small steps. And then as we get closer, I can start now, so maybe just get it, not yet. So we need to make another one of these, and probably the easiest way to do it is we'll just do exactly the same on the other end. So now I can cut them to length. I'll cut these ends first, and we just want those long enough to sort of lap over. So I think if I hold that there, we will take something like that much off. Let's have a measure. Are we getting close? 25. 25. That's good, right. So there are our metal brackets. We just need to drill those and figure out quite how we're going to fix it into this plastic. So this is quite tough. You can see these will fit there and there. Drill the holes and that'll hold that down. So yeah, this plastic's quite tough, but normally if you try and put a self-tapping screw in here, it's going to kind of let go. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a standard bolt. We're going to use a nylock nut, and we're going to mount them in such a way that we can pivot them in and out of the way. And what we might do is put a bit more bend on here so it kind of locks into place. So this will be held tight but not overly tight. Washer on the back to stop it coming back through. So next thing I think, get these drilled, then we can mark our holes here, then we can complete our assembly. Right, so mounted in the chuck here, we've got a 6.5mm drill bit. So the reason I'm going for a 6.5mm drill bit is it's the clearance on a 6mm hole, and we're going to use a 6mm bolt. The next thing I'm going to do is in the vise I'm going to put this little bit of wood. Now the wood's a little bit narrower than the metal bracket, so when I put the metal bracket in the vise, it clamps nice and square because I'm pushing it down onto the wood. Now normally you would find the centre line, you would score it, put a pot mark so the drill doesn't drift. The 6.5mm drill bit is fairly robust, and I'm going to, obviously be drilling this with the drill press, which means that I can position it pretty well and don't need the centre pot mark, and I'm not going quick enough or pressing hard enough to warrant the drill bending and slipping out of the line I put it in. So it doesn't have to be perfect either, which is good. So that's very roughly where I want it to be. So very roughly, it's down there, perfect. Let's put a hole in there. Okay, so that's the first one. Now on this particular one, I'll check the swath, I've kind of brought the hole quite close to the edge. I think for the other one I'm going to bring it closer into this edge because I haven't as much material to put a hole in the plastic. So let's get that lined up. Our centre line should be the same. It's probably just going to be this x-axis. The reason they call it x-axis, if anybody wonders, is because x is across. Just thought I'd mention that. Some people might find it funnier than others. Right. So now I'm going to bring the jaw this way, and that will give me a, not too much because I've got to get a nut on that, thinking about it. Let's do that. Does that look good? That looks good. Let's put a hole in this. Start off gently because we don't want to put pressure on, bend the drill bit and it scoots out of line. And then once it starts, add a little bit more pressure, not too much. The tool will do the cutting, not me ramming it. Smoke and sawdust, we're through. Okay, so what we're going to do, this is a grindstone, and because metal gets hot very quickly and it's very hard to control small pieces with bare fingers, we're going to use a pair of mole grips. Unfortunately, when I start this up, it's going to get noisy, but we won't be on here for very long. So, here we go. Job done. That will go on the bike, the filter's not going to fall out, and yeah, filter box is ready to fit.